Immersed Robot.
Hello, welcome to Immersed Robot. So in this video I wanted to give a few first impressions of the Pico 4 in Elite Dangerous. Now I've had this headset for a while, but I've not really had a chance to dive into it too much. So that's why I wanted to finally get a video out. I've been just really busy with work in general, and then I've had a cold, so I'll probably have to edit this video to cut out some of the coughing and spluttering and stuff like that. That's probably going to happen. But I wanted to give some first impressions with this, mainly just to see how it compares to the Quest 3 for PC VR. But quickly before I go into that, I have used it a little bit for standalone, not too much at the moment. But you know, the standalone aspect of this headset is quite impressive. You know, it's very similar to the Quest 3 with those pancake lenses. It's not got the XR2 Gen 2 chip, so it's got the same as the Quest 2. It's basically similar to a Quest 2 with pancake lenses and a higher resolution display. So I believe it's 2160 by 2160 per eye in the Pico 4. So it's got a nice high resolution, but everything feels really snappy. Like the menu system is really nice to use. Everything just feels a little bit tighter than the last time I used the Quest 2. It feels like anyway. But generally, you know, there's not a lot in it. They're very close in terms of their use cases and just how they generally are, I suppose, just the overall specs and the image quality and stuff like that you can expect. But the pancake lenses are quite a big advantage. And of course, the Quest 3 also has pancake lenses. So it's interesting just to use both these headsets for PC VR. I've heard very good things about the Pico 4. Before I had this, I did actually try it at the Retro Computer Museum here in Leicester when Lee Daysnetic from the podcast Recentered came down, and he bought his Pico 4, and so did Mac actually from Mac in VR. And I used both of those headsets just for, you know, 5-10 minutes, and I was impressed with the lenses. I thought it looked great, but it wasn't really the venue to get deep into any impressions or anything like that. But now I've got it and I've used it just a little bit in some PC VR and a little bit in standalone. I wanted to give some impressions on how it does compare, especially against the Quest 3 for this particular title. So straight off, let's get into the lenses first of all, because I do think the lenses in the Quest 3 are very slightly better, but there's not a lot in it, honestly. They're very, very close in terms of the edge-to-edge clarity, the sweet spot, and all of those other things. I do think the edge-to-edge clarity is slightly better in the Quest 3 though. That's one of the things I will say. So there is a little bit of, not distortion, but a little bit of blurring towards the very edges of these lenses, and it's the same in the Quest 3. It just doesn't seem quite as bad. And I have been back and forth this afternoon between these two headsets in Elite Dangerous, so I can give some real, you know, proper direct comparison between the two headsets and the experience I'm getting. I played both with virtual desktop on identical settings in both headsets. Steam VR is on 100% in both as well, and also here in Elite Dangerous, all the settings that I'm playing on in both is also identical. And yeah, so edge-to-edge clarity on the lenses not quite as good on the Pico 4. The other thing is, I would say, I mean, in this particular title, I don't think the image quality is quite as good either in the Pico 4 as it is in the Quest 3. Sorry, just a few frame stutters there. I am recording on the same PC as I'm playing on this time. I'm not really doing a performance test on this one. It's more just giving some impressions. So I wasn't getting these when I weren't recording, so that's something anyway. But yeah, I do think the image quality is slightly better in the Quest 3. It's just feels a little bit more blurry in the Pico 4, very slightly. And you know, it's still a huge leap over something like when I played in the Rift S or in the Valve Index. The Pico 4 is still giving me a better overall image quality. There's no real compression that I can see in virtual desktop, running at 150 megabits per second bitrate, and I am connected to I'm actually not connected to the same routers that I was on the Quest 3 and the Pico 4, but they were both running at the same bitrate, so you know that's the settings were identical. 72 frames per second. Latency was also very similar between these two headsets. So from all of those points of view, it's really not a lot of difference, but I do feel like the image quality was better in the Quest 3. There's another thing as well. I think the black levels felt a little bit better in the Quest 3 as well. Now, I'm going to try to remember to put in a side-by-side through the lens shot of both of these headsets. Now, the one on the Pico 4, don't look at the resolution that that's running at, because it is slightly different now. I have changed it slightly since taking that, but everything else is basically the same. So the black levels, you should still be able to get a good comparison between that. I'm just trying, be as transparent as I can about all the settings and things like that I had these two headsets on to make sure it's fair. But yeah, I think you'll see from that the image quality looks slightly better, and the black levels and colours are also slightly better in the Quest 3. Now, of course, the Pico 4 is an older headset. This was really a competitor to the Quest 2. It was intended to be that. It wasn't really intended to be a competitor to the Quest 3, although it does have those pancake lenses. It's got the same feature, and that's why it still sort of holds its own in many ways, and it's cheaper. So there's around about £130 difference between the Pico 4 and the Quest 3. I think it's £350 for the Pico 4 at the moment, and the Quest 3 is £479. So yeah, around about £130 difference. And, is the difference in experience for PCVR that much to really warrant that price difference? And I suppose, I don't know. At this moment, this is first impressions. I'm going to need to look into this a bit more and try and dial in settings maybe. I have spent a little bit of time to try to get these settings as close as possible between the two, and also get performance as close as possible between the two as well. So I think what my gut is saying is that just because the Quest 3 does look better, in my opinion, and if you can stretch to that, if you're specifically looking for something like an Elite Dangerous PCVR kind of headset, I'd personally suggest that the Quest 3 is worth that extra money. However, if you are on a budget, you're going to still get a great experience on that Pico 4 for £350. And I don't want to say you won't. It's just that when you're comparing a headset from really last gen to current gen, that is the difference. That is what you should really expect. However, it does sort of hold its own in many ways, the Pico 4 against Quest 3. But I can't say it looks as good to me. And like I say, been backwards and forwards this afternoon between these two headsets. So I have done like a direct A to B comparison, literally minutes apart. And that's the end result that I've come up with. Now, I don't think that's the case in everything. I want to make that clear as well. As a general PC VR headset, the Pico 4 still holds its own, still does a really great job in general from what I've played so far. Again, I need to do some more, but I think it's stacking up quite well against the Quest 3, but it's just difficult to really compete against it. I think the advantages of the XR2 Gen 2 chip in the Quest 3 do make a difference in terms of how far you can push things in terms of encoding and stuff like that. To get that better image quality. Also, if you've got a 4000 series GPU, you can run the Quest 3 on the AV1 codec. Now, that doesn't really come into play in my comparison that I've done today, because I'm on a 3000 series GPU, a 3080, and my full specs are in the description as always, but I can't run that AV1 codec, so I am running the Pico 4 on H.264, and I need to do a lot more experimentation between this to really see if I can up this image quality to try and get a little bit close to that Quest 3. I think that's something I should do, but I've spent a little bit of time to try and do that now, and it's very difficult, honestly. I think it's an easier task to get the image quality looking better on a Quest 3. Once again, though, I am impressed with the Pico 4 as a competitor to the Quest 2. For PC VR, it's a better experience. The pancake lenses make all the difference, and I think overall the black levels are better than the Quest 2 as well. Yeah, it's been a while since I've used the Quest 2, so it's difficult for me to say that categorically, but that's just how it feels. But yeah, just a few first impressions. I'll play some more PC VR and also play a little bit more standalone on the Pico 4, which I think for the standalone, it does an exceptionally good job. It feels better than the Quest 2, certainly in standalone, to me anyway. it just feels a bit more responsive. I don't know about that. But I'll probably leave it there on this one, and I'll report back. I'll use the Pico 4 a bit more. I want to get into some more stuff and also try and really dial in some more settings. You can see I'm stuttering here. It's getting a little bit of performance issues based on the fact I am recording at the same time. So that's not indicative of how it generally runs with PCVR. I think it's more a case of me trying to push the settings as high as I can get while also recording it, really. But that's something to keep in mind. But that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.